Today is Saturday, April 12th. This week offered a stark reminder that even just one policy change has the potential to throw the entire global economy for a loop. As the U.S. reexamines its trade partnerships, markets have swung back and forth, making investors and everyday Americans question what they should be doing with their money. Coming up, you'll hear from financial advisor Hillary Hendershot for practical advice, including steps you can take today to protect yourself. But first, we're checking in with the chief economist at Moody's, Mark Zandi, about the market turbulence and when we might see a recession. Welcome to the Newsworthy Special Edition Saturday, when we sit down with a different expert or celebrity every Saturday to talk about something in the news. Don't forget to tune in every Monday through Friday for our regular episodes, where we provide all the day's news in 10 minutes. I'm Erica Mandy. It's now time for today's Special Edition Saturday. Mark Zandi, thank you so much for joining us here on the Newsworthy.
It's good to be with you. Thanks for the opportunity.
So we've obviously seen wild swings in the stock market this week. So big picture first, can you just explain briefly why this is happening?
A global trade war. Tariffs are on, tariffs are off, they're being delayed, they're ratcheting up, this country, this product, that time period. A lot going on that front, and obviously has tremendous implications for the economy, for businesses, their profitability, and therefore for stock prices. So stock investors are hanging on every piece of information that's coming out from Washington and every other capital in the world about what's going on with these tariffs and how other countries are responding.
You said earlier this week that if the tariffs continue as they were laid out, that there's no avoiding a global recession. You said brace for impact. But then President Trump put this 90-day pause on at least some of the tariffs. So now, knowing that, what are your thoughts on the chances of a recession moving forward?
Nothing's changed. I think recession risks are equally as high. My sense is if the president doesn't take an off-ramp, continues down this path, this trade war, then by June, July, I feel like we're going to start losing jobs, and that would be the start of a recession. What
would need to happen for the markets to calm down, to stabilize again?
One thing, end this trade war, or scale it back in a very meaningful way, significant way, because, the tariffs are a massive tax increase on American consumers and businesses in the form of higher prices for imported goods. If you take the tariffs as they're currently articulated, the tax increase comes to $600 billion a year. I mean, that as a percent of the nation's GDP, that's about as large a tax increase as we've ever experienced in the modern time, going back to World War II. So that's a pretty significant thing to digest.
Higher prices from products overseas is for obvious reasons. Do you expect even American-made goods to go up in price because of various tools that those companies use that come from overseas?
Yeah, prices for domestically produced goods will also go up, in part because those companies will need to purchase imported goods as well to manufacture what they're making. And as they pay more for those imported goods because of the tariffs, they got to pass that through. And domestic companies, if foreign prices are rising, and that shifts demand over to what they're producing, they'll raise price, right? Because demand is just picked up for what they're producing, and they can charge a higher price, and they'll do it. We'll be paying more for everything.
And I know this is complicated and could probably be an episode on its own, but any thoughts on President Trump's reasoning or, what he said is his reasoning for tariffs in terms of bringing negotiation opportunities, bringing more manufacturing to the U.S.? Thoughts on those things?
Yeah, they're hard to fathom. I don't get it. There's been talk about incenting manufacturers to come here, but I just don't see that. Just think of yourself as a CEO of a major, say, global vehicle manufacturing firm. And you're trying to decide, should I move operations into the U.S.? Should I build a factory in the United States? The next question you ask yourself, well, what's the tariff going to be? Well, because these tariffs are done under executive order, they can change with the stroke of a pen. They can change in an instant if the president feels like it should. So what is that tariff going to be tomorrow? What about next month? What about 3 years from now when that factory that you just started building today comes to fruition? And what about 10, 20 years from now? Because that factory is going to be in operation that long. And by the way, these tariffs, they're going to be challenged. They're going to be in the courts, and the courts are going to adjudicate, and they'll figure that out, who knows, 12, 18, 24 months from now. So go back to being that CEO for a second and ask yourself, Can I really make that kind of an investment in the context of that uncertainty around the tariffs? And the answer is no. And I think that's what manufacturers are going to be broadly saying. And I just don't see them coming here and setting up shop and expanding here.
Next up, President Trump has been threatening to make the next round of tariffs about pharmaceuticals. Do you expect some drug shortages or any medications to become unaffordable?
It depends, what he does exactly. How high are the tariffs going to be? Are there going to be any exemptions, carve-outs for certain products, pharmaceutical products for certain countries? But, if they're broad-based increases and he sticks to them, we're going to be paying more for pharmaceuticals, no doubt about it. And there may be shortages because it's going to disrupt global supply chains to a significant degree. It's unclear how that's all going to play out.
What about other must-have items? Do you think Americans should be stocking up on anything like diapers and formula for new parents, toilet paper like we saw during the pandemic? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. That buys you a little bit of time. I don't know if it's worth the hassle of standing in a line to buy those things. These tariffs are so big, so overwhelming that if they're around for any length of time, trying to shop ahead and stock up, I don't know that really solves any problems.
What does history teach us about what to expect next?
Well, the history around tariffs strongly argue they don't make sense. They don't work. They're just really bad economic policy. I mean, you don't have to go too far back. Just go back to the tariff trade war under President Trump's first term. It did result in higher prices for consumers. It did cause a recession in the manufacturing base as other countries retaliated. China retaliated. President Trump had to cut checks to the farmers to compensate for the loss of exports to China in that war. The tariffs have long-term pernicious effects. They reduce competition, make it less likely that businesses will invest and innovate and try to figure out how to do things more efficiently and get costs down. And then I can go back further. I can go back to the Smoot-Hawley, 1930. That was the previous time before this where we engaged in aggressive tariffs. That was helped contribute to the start of the Great Depression of the 1930s. History is a strong guide, and it strongly suggests that there's nothing but losers in a trade war.
And despite the political tensions, you're looking at the numbers as an economist. This is the general consensus among economists, not a political viewpoint.
I'd say it's an overwhelmingly strong consensus. I mean, there's not much stuff economists agree on. Get 3 economists in a room and you get 30 opinions. I mean, and it's all reasonable. I mean, these are reasonable debates, but not on tariffs. I don't know. Put 100 economists in a room, survey them. 99 of them will be kind of on the same page with me.
Anything else you'd want to add or just a final thought?
I can't believe we're here. This is it's unfathomable to me. It's just all self-inflicted. Which I guess the good news is if it's self-inflicted, if we stop poking ourselves in the eye, maybe we can get back on track here. But hopefully the poking in the eye ends here pretty soon because we're going to be blind if it doesn't happen.
Still ahead, what does this all mean for your money right now? Certified financial planner and founder of Hendershot Wealth Management, Hillary Hendershot, joins me next. She's been named one of Investopedia's top 100 most influential advisors in the U.S., and she's here to explain what most people should and should not be doing in this economy. That and more coming up. But first, a quick break for our sponsors. My family has some travel coming up this spring and summer, and I realized my old suitcase is broken. The handle no longer pulls up. So I am in need of a new suitcase ASAP, and I have to tell you, I'm really impressed by the options on Quince. I'm talking premium luggage options for carrying on and checking, as well as stylish tote bags. And they all look super expensive, and yet they're actually affordable on Quince. As you might know by now, since I've talked about their clothing options many times before, all Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands, and luggage is no exception. How? Quince partners with top factories, cutting the cost of the middleman and passing savings to us. Of course, Quince only works with factories that are safe, ethical, and responsible, and that use premium fabrics and finishes. I'm personally eyeing Quince's carry-on and large check-in suitcase bundle. I save even more with that bundle. Plus, I love the stylish look and colors they offer, the 360 spinner wheels, the organization features, and more. So for your next trip, join me in treating yourself to the luxe upgrades you deserve from Quince. Go to quince.com/newsworthy for 365-day returns plus free shipping on your order. That's QUINCE. Quince.com/newsworthy to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/newsworthy. The Newsworthy is also brought to you by Ancient Nutrition. Collagen is not a miracle, but it is proven to help you look and feel healthier. And Ancient Nutrition makes a great high-quality version that has 10 types of collagen from 10 real food-based sources. I love that Ancient Nutrition's mission is to combine the best of ancient wisdom and modern science. Because yes, their multi-collagen advanced lean supplement is powered by clinically studied ingredients that promotes healthy weight management, building lean muscle, and more. Collagen can also reduce joint discomfort and improve the look and growth of your skin, hair, and nails. I know I've already felt a difference, and it's really simple to use. I've been scooping some into my morning smoothie, and I love knowing I'm doing something good for my body and my health. It's totally normal that our body's natural building processes slow down as we age, but that doesn't mean there's nothing we can do about it. So right now, Ancient Nutrition is offering 25% off your first order when you go to ancientnutrition.com/newsworthy. That's ancientnutrition.com/newsworthy for 25% off your first order. ancientnutrition.com/newsworthy. Now to my conversation with financial advisor Hilary Hendershot. Hilary Hendershot, thank you for joining us here on the Newsworthy.
So happy to be here.
So first, I'm just curious, are you hearing from clients who are worried right now, who are even panicked? How are people feeling right now about everything that's going on?
Very much so. I would say 80% of our client base has been through market cycles with us before, and so are feeling like we know what your advice is going to be. But a solid 20% are somewhere between terrified and just angry.
So what is your advice to them and others right now about their personal finances during these wild swings on Wall Street and all of the uncertainty surrounding tariffs?
Continue saving in your 401k and other savings accounts. Keep a fully funded rainy day account and just overall stay focused on your financial goals. And if at some point the things you love to buy and enjoy end up becoming more expensive because of tariffs, you can definitely decide if you still want to buy them at that time. So now is a time to really make sure you're keeping your spending lean. You do want to have plenty of cash in bank accounts if you need it. That can make all the difference. Subscription cancellation services like Rocket Money can be a good tool to make sure you're not paying for things you're not actually enjoying. But other than that, the largest ticket item for the vast majority of people are their home and their car or transportation if you don't have a car. As long as you're not going out and doubling the size of your house right now or planning to buy a brand new car in a year, your spending is probably in check, and just keep it that way. Just make sure it's lean. Remain calm. Keep taking steps toward achieving the things that are important to you and your family.
About that rainy day fund, what do you advise people to have on hand in cash?
Typical rule of thumb is if you have a 2-income household, keep 3 months of cash on hand. That's expenses, including your both fixed and discretionary costs. And then if you have a single income household, keep 6 months. I think at this point, really, there is a reason they say cash is king. I would go to 6 to 8 months if you can swing it of cash on hand. And that way, if 1 or 2 people lose your job, you at least have time to look for a new job before you run out of cash. If you currently don't have a rainy day fund and you're considering what to do, in other words, should I take money out of my 401k or other stock market investments to fund that rainy day fund? I think the right answer is if you lose your job, yes, you're in an emergency situation, you're absolutely going to have to take money out of the stock market to pay your bills. You absolutely will. The best outcome would be to take it out when the stock market is highest. But over the short term, we don't know if the stock market is going to go up or down. So if I were advising a client, I would say, look, I understand you don't have a rainy day account today. Let's wait and see what happens. In the meantime, tighten your belt, really try not to lose your job. And hopefully we can fill that account. If you do lose your job, we'll go ahead and take money out of your accounts.
You briefly talked about a car. What if someone was planning to buy a car or is going to need a car soon? Should they be moving quickly, avoid it altogether? What's your advice?
We've got 25% tariffs coming on all cars shipped to America from other countries. And of course, tariffs on new vehicles will make those more expensive and thereby drive up demand and prices for used vehicles. So we're probably looking at premium prices on cars until the tariff issue is resolved. I would say if you absolutely need a car right now, don't even wait till the end of this interview. Get down to the car lot, probably this weekend. And if you have the cash or can afford the loan payment, buy that car immediately. But I do think the better financial advice is to keep maintaining your existing vehicle and really try to stay out of the car market while tariffs are here.
So what about specifically the stock market? Thoughts on selling or buying stocks while the market is down or up, or just generally trying to time this market?
Definitely do not try to time the market. You should definitely not be selling stocks right now, despite what your normal human emotions are probably telling you. Never sell low if you can help it. The most dangerous thought in investing is this time it's different, because it's not. And ultimately, both the economy and the stock market are very resilient. And the downturns we all lived through in 2008 and 2020 are now in our rearview mirrors because the stock market has fully recovered from those and will at some point from this. Take Wednesday this week, for example, as we're doing this interview on Thursday the 10th, we can think about yesterday, April 9th, as an example. Trump announced a pause in most of the global tariffs. And of course, the S&P 500 shot up 9.5%. That's one of the largest stock market gains of all time. But you had to be invested on April 8th, which was a negative day in the market, to enjoy that positive return. So that's just an example of reasons really not to try to time the stock market.
What about people who are getting ready to retire?
The really good news is that the planning and saving you've done before now will have far more impact on your retirement than anything happening over the short term. And you'll need to weather multiple stock market cycles during retirement. So this is normal. Definitely confirm with your financial advisor that you're taking the right amount of risk in your portfolio. And then my advice really is the same. Stay the course. And the silver lining is that if you go into retirement fully funded during a downturn, you're far more likely to experience positive surprises to your retirement income than if you go into retirement fully funded during a boom.
Explain that more.
Well, because if you go into retirement during a downturn, the stock market is more than likely going to go up after you retire. So with our clients, we're calculating what their retirement income will be based on account balances today, right? And then if you go into retirement and the stock market goes up, well, now we can give you a raise versus suffering what we in the industry refer to as sequence of returns risk. If you go in during a boom and then the bottom falls out of the stock market, well, now you've calculated your retirement income far too high and you might have to take a big haircut.
Outside of this circumstance, can you walk us through a few of your top tips for personal finance now or anytime?
When it comes to spending, I think most people overly think about budgets. Instead, I recommend automating your personal finances. So make sure that your consistent and fixed bills are paid automatically monthly by automatic transfer, and then use a bucketing system for spending. So if you have a spending account that's pre-funded with the amount of money that you can afford to spend in that time period, that 2-week period in between paychecks, for example, then you know for sure that the rest of your financial goals are handled. And then, so in 2025, you can contribute up to $23,500 to your 401k account. Many of you have employers who do a match. So really make your first goal each January 1st to maximize, or at least come close to maximizing that contribution. You really will thank yourself later for doing that.
And if someone's not in the stock market, should they be getting in now?
If you're not currently invested in the stock market, there are lots of ways to do that in very affordable and smart ways. And that's in the form of typically index fund ETFs or mutual funds. The fact of the matter is the stock market goes up 2/3 of the time and it goes down 1/3 of the time. Over the many decades you're likely to live, really the better plan of action is to just get invested. So if I had money to invest in the stock market that wasn't already invested, would I invest it today? Absolutely.
Anything else you want to add, or just a final thought?
Focusing on the macroeconomy is not going to help your peace of mind, and remind yourself often that this too shall pass.
Well, thank you so much to both of our guests today. If you're interested in learning more from Hillary Hendershot, go check out the Love Your Money podcast or visit her website, hendershotwealth.com. And thanks to Mark Zandi from Moody's. Learn more about their research, data, and insights at moodys.com. A quick disclaimer, this episode included content meant as general financial education. It is not meant to be specific investment advice, as each person's situation can vary. All right, thank you so much for listening today. Join us again to stay updated on all the day's news from our 10-minute roundups each Monday through Friday. And to get more in-depth interviews, join us back here every Saturday. We'll be back on Monday with the latest news to know. Until then, have a great rest of your weekend.